Thank you very much. Well, speaking of tired and exhausted, we've been doing this for 3 years, what's happened in that time? Well, a huge amount, really. When I think back, I first addressed this group in January 2016 on the subject of the DCO. And we spoke optimistically at that time of what could happen, because we discovered that a DCO was possible. Previously, as you know, we tried to work with the council. So here we are. We have 2 weeks to go before the DCO examination ends. We've come a hell of a long way. And just when you feel the finishing line is in sight, what happens? Friday afternoon at 6:08, you get another 220 questions from the examining authority, which have to be answered by Friday. And, you know, I quoted this to a colleague. I think it calls to mind Henry V before Agincourt, you know, once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. That's not a Brexit point, but it's context. I know we're fighting the French. We're fighting the examining authority, although we're not fighting, we're dealing with their demands. So I'm here on a Sunday, having worked most of the weekend on those questions and answers, because they've all got to be done by Friday, 220. So, where does that leave us generally with the examination? Well, as many of you will know, the examination lasts for 6 calendar months. It's fixed by the Planning Act. So it began on the 9th of January and it ends on the 9th of July. After the 9th of July, everything is finished. There's then 3 months for the examining authority, the 4 inspectors, to write their report, and 3 more months for the Secretary of State, whoever that may be by then, to write his or her report on or before the 9th of January. That's when the final decision will be made. And that will be a decision about the ownership of the site and about the planning conditions, which include things like mid-morning departures and so on. So that's kind of where we are. The key document which has been referred to is effectively the Development Consent Order, which is a great big thick document. It's like an Act of Parliament. That is the thing which gives us, or will give us, the authority to do what we want to do. It's like a planning consent, but it covers many more issues than the planning consent, and it covers a long period of time. In our case, it's anything up to 20 years, because that's the length of the business plan, and you know, that's how long I personally plan to stay around to see it through to the end. Plus, it will have a compulsory acquisition element to it, which is that which will transfer the freehold ownership from its present owner to us, unless, in the meantime, a deal can be done. And I think I'd like to start off with that, because some of you who follow these things will have seen what has been posted recently by the Planning Inspectorate. And it's not material that we would have chosen to post, but as it's in the public domain now, I felt it would be a bit odd if we didn't comment. So if you'll forgive me, I will take you through it. It's public knowledge that there have been contacts between us and the present owners for a while. And for those of you who haven't read it, I'll read this in full if I may. This is an email dated the 24th of May this year from my colleague Niall Waller. The recipient, the name of the recipient is redacted, so I won't give you the name, but I can say it's in the office of the present owner. It says this: having reached out to you and Tony, touching base, that's me, with you, I received your email on Monday afternoon, which would have been the 19th of May, and subsequently Blank and I spoke on Wednesday. My partners and I wish to place the following on record. First, our firm view is that this offer is at a significant premium to the current real value of the land. Secondly, we accept that the issue of Brexit and Stonehill Park's negotiations with the Department for Transport cast a delaying shadow over previous discussions. You were unable to share the terms of the planning services agreement with the DFT with us until late February, which is fully understandable, for which we accept that you were not to blame. This was followed by clear uncertainty on our side and our surprise at the full scale and nature of the capital works undertaken at Manston, which was still in progress during the site visit as part of the examining authority's inspection on the 12th of March. Our ability to review the extent of works undertaken was not reached until the DFT's recent statement that there would be no further activity on Manston at least until the 31st of October. Stonehill Park's efforts have made, third point, Stonehill Park's efforts have made very little progress in the various attempts to alter the planning status of Manston, as evidenced by the two mixed-use applications, both of which have made no progress in 3 years and 18 months respectively, and the planning appeal which was refused and in which Manston's status as an airport was confirmed. If you succeed in defeating our proposals, and if you are not able to obtain permission for housing, as we strongly believe would be the case, the land would be next to worthless. Finally, there is a significant risk for you of compulsory purchase powers being granted, and hence the amount we pay being in line with the estimate of our expert value of CBRE. 90% of our estimate would be payable upon us entering the land, and the remainder might not be paid for several years. The evidence that exists is that the last genuine open market transaction for the land was for £1 only. So we go on. The terms of our offer, which is subject to contract, are as follows. 1. Purchase price of £12 million to be paid to your solicitors in full on Wednesday the 29th of May, that's 5 days after the email, to be held in escrow pending completion of the purchase. £5 million of the purchase price will be structured as a deposit with the balance as completion funds. Exchange of contracts would take place on the 29th of May, with completion to take place as soon as possible after receipt of the DFT's consent to the sale, which in turn is due within 5 days of an application being made. Our solicitors have already prepared the documents in terms that we believe will be acceptable to you as drafted. As you know, we have investigated your title as part of the land referencing process, which is why we can proceed so quickly. We've already paid all the required funds, £12 million, into the client's account of our solicitors, PDB Pitmans, who will confirm that payment to your solicitors, Cripps. You may retain all the rights and obligations, including the income from the current planning services agreement with the DFT to the 31st of December 2020. In this respect, we will enter into a lease with Stonehill Park to take effect upon completion, thereby triggering the obligation of the Department for Transport to agree to the sale. 5. In return, you will withdraw your Stonehill Parks and Kent Facilities representation and both planning applications and take no further part in the DCO. If you will confirm acceptance of this offer, I will arrange for our solicitors to send you the necessary documents, together with proof of funds without delay. That was the 24th of May. On the 31st of May, this was what was published. This was the reply, and I had better read it in full for those of you who haven't seen it already. This was dated the 29th of May. I refer to your email of 24th May. Your revised offer of £12 million has been considered by the shareholders of SHP and is unanimously rejected. When we spoke on the telephone last week, I strongly advised you not to attempt to make any changes to the terms of the offer agreed between us in January of this year. That's in dispute, by the way. Following your failure to deliver on the transaction documented in the heads of terms signed in December 2018. I explained that my shareholders now view that offer as marginal, particularly given increased interest we have received in recent months. However, they have always acted in good faith, and I was reasonably confident they would honour the deal we had agreed, providing there were no more stunts and prevarications. Predictably, this was not to be, and Stonehill Park's latest attempt to acquire our land on the cheap, I think she means RSP's latest attempt to acquire our land on the cheap, accompanied by thinly veiled threats surrounding how the Lands Tribunal might view the value of our site, simply smacks of desperation. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I think please feel free to read the rest of the letter. It finishes with this: when faced with the mounting evidence before the examination and further questioning from the examining authority, the timing and nature of your email appears to be a blatant attempt to rile us into dismissing your offer out of hand, which you would then seek to spin to the examining authority in the hope that it overlooks your failure to meet the most basic requirements of the DCLG guidance. Well, they published that. What they didn't publish was our response, which went out on the 31st, on the same day, and it said, you noted earlier today, I'm not getting into a back and forth with you on the past. Suffice it to say, there are plenty of substantial reasons for our actions, and when we have something material, we communicate it directly with you. The fact that you did not re-execute our non-disclosure agreement and then made known the substantial points of our discussions via your consultants to the examining authority clearly displayed to our side of the table what we can do with it. Our goal is to do a deal, not to be trying to score points at public hearings. You are correct on one point in your email. We are seeking to execute a deal rather than have compulsory powers being exercised. Please clarify, if you could, please, is the, and then I won't mention the exact number, the number that they had referred to in the January meeting, is that still your price? Or are you now stating that the land is not for sale? As we have formally notified your lawyers, Cripps, our funds are held by our lawyers, and our stated offer will remain open for the next 2 weeks. No response was received to that. No response at all. Then, on the 18th of June, a further communication, this was sent by Nick Rothwell, who is one of our investors, whom some of you will have seen at the two hearings. And he writes as follows. I will give you the name of the addressee. I'm writing to you in my capacity as Director of River Oak Strategic Partners and also as a member of and professional advisor to the consortium of investors who together own 90% of River Oak. You may be aware that in this capacity I have given evidence to the DCO examination in March and in June. I have seen the recent correspondence passing between Niall and Blank. I now wish to meet with you to see if we can arrive at an amicable solution whereby we acquire the freehold of the airport from you at a price acceptable to us both, while allowing you to retain the benefit of the parking services agreement with the Department for Transport. For the avoidance of doubt, I should also make it clear that I am in funds and I am fully authorised to negotiate a final deal with you to take effect in a matter of days. I would be willing to fly to Scotland to meet you at very short notice. That's on the 18th of June. No reply has been received to that either. So I just, all I wanted to do was to get on the record that a negotiation is a negotiation. We felt that it would not be appropriate for us to disclose details of that to the examining authority, but they did. They disclosed earlier details and they disclosed later details, and they produced an almost unredacted version of the last letter, the last email. So I felt it was right that you should see this, you should hear this, and we will of course be putting these to the examining authority along with 2 or 3 other bits of communication which show that what is being represented is not quite as we see it. It is important because we remain, as Nick Rothwell said in his email, willing to do a deal quickly and for a significant amount of money. And what's implicit in his letter is that the sum of money referred to in the email of 24th of May, namely £12 million, which said sum still remains with our solicitors, can be increased to take account of negotiations if we could negotiate. So, having shared that with you, I then wanted to share something else which has come up in the hearings. Shall I stop? Which has come up in the hearings. And this is about our funders and who they are and how much money we've got and how we've spent it. I've given a lot of thought to how this has occurred, and why we find ourselves in this situation. You must remember that almost every DCO so far has been conducted by a public body of some kind. People like the National Grid, or people like the major power companies, or in the case of the nuclear power station in Wales, Hitachi. So, in a sense, it has not been necessary for examining authorities to look at where the funding is coming from. In our case, and this is an oddity really, what's unique about us is we haven't asked for a penny of public money, not one penny, nothing. We have paid for everything ourselves. And it's almost as though the fact that we are paying for it ourselves has aroused suspicion in some people, which I find quite puzzling. We've provided the examining authority with evidence of what we've spent, and we've made it clear that the money has come in by way of loans from our investors. And this is a traditional way of funding a major project. The early money, and this is the early money, is risk money, total risk money. So the 60 million plus that it is now that's being spent is completely at risk. There's no security for it, there's nothing, it's risk money. Once you get to the point where you have a development consent order and an asset, then you can go to the market and raise more money, and you can also engage with potential users of the area. That's how the commercial world works. We've tried very hard to explain all that, and sometimes with some success, not always. The other difficulty is that Manston is effectively a startup. So when people crawl over the forecasts of Heathrow, for example, with the fifth runway, the third runway, sorry. that's for the future. When they crawl over Heathrow's numbers for the third runway, they know what Heathrow does. Heathrow has a pattern of trading for 50, 70 years, which you can build on and model. We are starting with a clean sheet. So when we get asked, how do you know that Airline X is going to fly 7 flights a week rather than 10 flights a week? The answer is, we don't know exactly. All we know is that Airline X can't get into Heathrow, can't get into Stansted, have said they're very committed to our project, and will come when we have an airport that's up and running and ready to receive them. Now, to some ears, that sounds a bit sort of hypothetical, but that's the real world. That's the world we live in. So we get then pressed on, well, who are your investors? And we've given answers which we believe go as far as we need to go. So we then get asked, well, give us a list of your investors. To which the answer is, well, this isn't how private investment works. It just isn't. Well, how do we know they exist? Well, why would we spend £16 million and be making up fictitious investors? It doesn't make any sense. Well, we're still not convinced, you know. So, what I wanted to say to you was this. We then referred the examining authority to what has happened in the past. And I just want to read you a couple of things, just as a reminder. This is a trip down memory lane. This is 5 years ago. This is before Brexit, and this is at a time when the Airbus Group, European-owned, had an obligation to create more jobs in the UK as part of something that had been agreed. There had been a reduction in the number of jobs, and because the UK had an interest in Airbus under an obligation. So they wrote a letter to us on the 15th of September 2014, a gentleman called Olivier Brune, who was the senior vice president, and he wrote as follows. Manston Airport, Kent, its head. It's marked strictly confidential. At the present time, the aviation industry is facing the challenge of how to dispose of aircraft which have reached the end of their operational lives. Quite properly, it is no longer acceptable for retired aircraft to be left to rot in the desert or to be buried in landfill sites. In this context, Airbus Group is very much interested to ensure that as many as possible of our retired aircraft will be the subject of orderly and environmentally compliant dismantling and recycling operations in the future. The process is known in the industry as tear down and is intended to take place undercover in secure airside locations in modern, specially designed hangars. The object of the tear-down exercise is to secure as much value as possible from each aircraft by carefully disassembling everything, including, of course, engines and engine parts. Currently, there are very few suitable tear-down facilities anywhere in the world, and with a retirement of around 800 aircraft a year, we believe that there will be no shortage of business for a new facility. In conversations with you and your colleagues over the past few months, we have concluded that Manston would be a candidate location for a new tear-down facility. It has the runway length, it has airside land for development of several new hangars if required, and it has an excellent skills base with a local tradition of aviation engineering. Ultimately, the number of jobs to be created would depend on the number of tear-down hangars constructed, but these would be jobs for skilled engineers with training opportunities for aspiring young engineers. Given Manston's airport's advantages, we were very surprised to learn that it had been closed down, and this led us to begin to look elsewhere in Europe for a suitable airport. However, you have explained that Thanet District Council is considering acquiring the airport by compulsory purchase with a view to reopen it at some point next year, and confirmation of this would be enough for us to maintain our interest. For the avoidance of doubt, Airbus does not aspire to become the owner of Manston Airport, but it will consider becoming an investor in tear-down facilities at the airport. For this to occur, the airport would have to become operational again and be returned to the ownership of a competent commercial operator during the course of 2015. I should also qualify this letter by saying that the decision by Airbus Group to invest in the airport will of course be subject to a due diligence exercise. You have our authority to release this letter to Thanet District Council, but only on the strict understanding that it is treated as strictly confidential. This is on the grounds that the information contained in this letter is commercially very sensitive. We released the letter to the council, I think, the end of September 2014, and within a month it was in the public domain. And Mr. Broom, the office received a number of calls, unwelcome calls, and was severely embarrassed because it was politically sensitive, because there had been a commitment by Airbus to bring more jobs to the UK. They didn't want anyone to know that these discussions were going on, and bingo, this happened. So our initial response to the examining authority was to say, look what happened in the past. Sadly, this is the way of the world these days. There are those who don't want the airport to come back, who will do their best to scare off or intimidate any potential investor, and no sensible investor wants that to happen. Okay, well, we were then prompted to produce some more letters recently. We set out details of potential investors, but we didn't provide the names. Well, you could be making it up. So on the 10th of June, a company called Aldgate Development, some of you will have seen this, wrote a letter which is now being posted on the Panmure Gordon's website. It's headed Proposed Redevelopment of Manston Airport, subject to comment. I write on behalf of Aldgate Developments to outline our continued support for the redevelopment of Manston Airport as a core member of the Riverworks Strategic Partners Consortium. As you are aware, Aldgate Developments intends to be centrally involved in the procurement of the airport development, including bringing development expertise and the £250 million to fund the projected first phase of capital expenditure. They then say something about Aldgate Developments. I'll read this quickly. Aldgate Developments is a developer and property company with strong financial backing and a proactive in-house asset management and development team. In recent years, we've been focused on the central London office market and are the owner and developer of several major office schemes in London and Dublin. One, Aldgate Tower at 2 Leman Street, London East 1, is a 17-storey, 320,000 square foot office building on which a £350 million sale was completed in April 2016, which provided significant acquisition liquidity to Aldgate Development. One, Brahm, formerly known as Maersk House, is a £400 million development on an adjoining site in Aldgate on which Aldgate Developments are currently completing a major 340,000 square foot office scheme, which is to be let to a major UK corporate occupier. And there's an email link. 21 Lime Street, EC3, a well-known high-profile development of 35,000 net square feet. This project was completed in a joint venture with the City of London Corporation on the 31st of March 2017, and the building is now fully let. And then there were two major office schemes in London which are currently under construction, Turbine and Leopardstown West, again with email links to both. He then also refers to data centres which they're developing very impressively, and then goes on to say, proposal for Manston Airport. Aldgate Developments is very excited about undertaking the development of Manston Airport as part of the River Oak Strategic Partners Consortium. We will bring very strong development expertise to the project, having completed about £1 billion of projects on time and on budget. We would propose providing a dedicated team of development managers and experts to bring the project to fruition, including refurbishment of the current airport infrastructure, runways, terminal, and the construction of appropriate new infrastructure, airport stands, cargo hangars, etc. As part of this development partnership, Aldgate Developments is able to bring the £250 million plus development financing to allow the first phase of the project to progress, just as we have on all our other developments in Aldgate and elsewhere. It is our intention to allow Rubicon Capital Advisors, and there's a link, who are a global, truly global, a huge global investment banking advisory firm specialising in infrastructure projects, to undertake this fundraise to supplement Aldgate Development's own investment capital. Rubicon have already discussed the project with a leading infrastructure fund, who are very keen to invest in the project, subject to completion of the DCO process. Rubicon are highly confident that the development financing can be raised, and I attach correspondence in this regard. Fine. Well, the consequence of that was 2 days after this letter was posted publicly, Rubicon's office in Dublin received a number of what I have been advised were abusive telephone calls in relation to their intention to become involved in the development of the airport. Now, this is not something they're used to. They're a perfectly respectable, regulated banking service, and this is what they do. This is what we said would happen. We did warn them that it might happen. Now, we published a second letter, and again, we've had to go to the authors of the letter. We haven't published it yet, but you'll see it probably later this week. This is from a company called Akunis Air Cargo Intralogistics, and they're a German company. At first, I'm sorry, I apologize for the English. This is a serious moment. I should read this in a German accent. At first, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in the project of the reopening and development of Manston Airport in East Kent in the UK. We herewith officially confirm our intention to participate in the above-mentioned project. Before we give some explanations to our application documents, we would like to provide some background information regarding the cooperation between Amoga GmbH and Unitech Systems GmbH and our setup for this project. Unitech Systems has its headquarters in Biel, Germany. It's well known as a supplier for air cargo systems for more than 20 years and holds extensive experience in engineering, supply and installation of air cargo systems. Unitechnic has realized plenty of reference systems such as those in Frankfurt, Sweden, Dubai, Taiwan, Ethiopia, South Africa and the USA. Alamova is registered in Netfen, Germany. It is a world market leader for logistics systems in the steel and aluminium industry. It has accumulated a vast experience in handling and storage of loads from 30 kilograms to 40 tons, as well as in warehouse management systems within the last 60 years. Consequently, Amoga can refer to numerous references of sophisticated logistics solutions worldwide, also in the sector of airport logistics. Unitechnic and Amoga have been realizing lots of projects worldwide jointly and have meanwhile established a close cooperation in the field of the air cargo business. Whereas Amoga is responsible for the mechanical portion of this cooperation, Unitechnic brings in its extensive experience in automation and its warehouse management systems, Uniware, with its specific air cargo modules. Unitechnic has been serving the international air cargo market since 1992 and also shares the knowledge and experience of ICM Airport Technics, which has been part of the Unitechnic Group since 2004. We are now concentrating our expertise jointly under the brand name of Acunis, with the aim to realise our function of becoming one of the leading players in the air cargo logistics sector and thus establish a long-term reliable partnership with your esteemed company. The brand name Acunis unites two market-leading companies with a pronounced expertise in plant engineering and automation and stands for reliable partners for air cargo companies to realise turnkey solutions for air cargo terminals. Amobel will act for Acunis as a proficient and reliable general contractor and can, due to its corporate affiliation, refer back to the capabilities and financial strength of the SMS Group. The SMS Group has been realising an annual turnover of 3.5 billion euros and has approximately 13,800 employees. And the SMS Group has been conducting business in the UK successfully for several decades. They then attach a list of references from the following: New Cargo Terminal, Nairobi, Kenya; Ethiopian Airlines; Emirates Sky Cargo, Dubai; HCH at Heathrow, Service Area Heathrow; Spirit Air Cargo at Copenhagen; Dewey Trade Port in Durban, South Africa; Kalani Cargo GmbH at Frankfurt; and Spirit Air Cargo in Stockholm, all within the last decade. We're delighted with that. We now have to warn them that they may receive some unwanted calls from people who are sceptical about whether they can do what they say they can do, but that's the world we live in. You will understand that there are others who prefer not to get involved in this, and that's the line we're going to have to hold now. There may well be 2 or 3 more potential supporters, big names, who will allow their material to go into the public domain. I'm hoping so, and we'll see what happens in the next few days. So, I've gone on long enough. That's where we are currently. We have 2 more weeks to go. We have 220 more questions to answer by Friday, and so an exciting week ahead. What we do. Thank you for listening to me.